Severance is actually about indentured servitude. Let me explain. Severance is a TV show that, on its surface, appears to critique the extremes of capitalism. The beautiful sets that drip with Apple money showcase a company, Lumon Industries, that seemingly finds a way to exploit its employees by extracting maximum productivity from them via this groundbreaking and maybe evil procedure where they literally sever your work self from your normal self. To many, this separation between worker and human is the apex of the capitalist exploitation of labor, the ultimate objective of the owners of the means of production. Because just imagine, worker productivity that no longer is subject to what happens in the workers' personal lives. In the show, the Audis' emotions, families, relationships, and personal histories cannot affect the Innie's production. This is a CEO's dream, right? Not quite, but that's what we're here for. Spoilers will follow. This is The Invisible Lens.
Hello?
Let's learn more about biotech behemoth Lumon Industries.
Who is that?
The founder is Keir Egan, and he acts as a kind of god or big brother. At Lumon Industries, workers become blank slates, so their stories can be rewritten within a controlled environment, an environment that he controls. It's suggested that Lumon is a large and powerful company with more than 100,000 employees and offices all over the world. From humble beginnings, Lumon grew to succeed in and even dominate medical technology and other tech fields. These are the 9 core principles of the company. Lumon employee number 4502, although his ID badge reads 08927, is Mark Scout, and he exhibits some of those core principles. He's a former college history professor, and this is a tasty serving of irony, given that the company tries to erase his history. Mark submits to the severance procedure after his wife dies, presumably in a car accident. The implication being in episode 1 that he was so distraught he agreed to be severed to dull his pain.
I'm proud of you for taking that job. I really am. And I think she would have been too. I know she would have been. I just feel like forgetting about her for 8 hours a day isn't the same thing as healing.
Mark's Audi believes he is a type of corporate historian working in the archives division.
Yes, I'm in the corporate archives division, so...
Oh, so you know all the dirty secrets.
Not really.
Well, Mark's work is sensitive enough as to require the severance procedure.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Helly is the very first character we meet. She's the daughter of the current CEO of Lumon Industries and the heir apparent. This too is full of irony, as the severance procedure not only erases history, but family as well. Helly underwent the severance procedure to prove it's a beneficial technology, but is deeply unsatisfied, and that's one of the keys to the whole series. She calls to mind Fahrenheit 451. In fact, the entire plot calls to mind dystopian fiction, and we'll dive into how. But in this 1953 novel by American writer Ray Bradbury, a key character is Clarice McClellan, a young woman who is thirsty for life, loves philosophy, walks in the open air, and loves talking to people. It's only when she mysteriously disappears that the protagonist, firefighter Guy Montag, begins to question the status quo of his condition. You don't have to look far to see the comparison made clear.
Let's burn this place to the ground.
Montag's contact and interaction with Clarice were essential for the scales to first fall from his eyes. In the same way, Innie Helly represents a kind of rupture in the system. That system at Lumon Industries requires employees to have their memories, indeed their lives, severed in half. This is done with the implantation of a microchip that prevents employees from accessing their personal lives and memories while at work, and prevents their work lives and memories from being accessed when they're not on the clock. It's pretty creepy and pretty dystopian, and in the tradition of great dystopias, this is a critique of authoritarianism, not capitalism.
Come now, children of my industry, and know the children of my blood.
Whoa.
Here, we're watching how the ideal Lumon employee should act, replacing their values and their own belief systems with the company's. The show takes to the extreme the modern corporation's expectation that employees should buy into the company's values, and makes it clear that in this universe, they understand this is not natural. The erasure of one's individuality and feelings should sound familiar to any fan of the authoritarian dystopian genre. Brave New World, for example, where conceptions of family, home, and relationships are entirely eliminated. The author, Englishman Aldous Huxley, wrote these words in his 1931 masterpiece. "And do you know what a home was? They shook their heads. Mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, but there were also husbands, wives, lovers. There were also monogamy and romance, though you probably don't know what those are. Everyone belongs to everyone else," he concluded. Making abstract concepts literal in order to critique them is a common feature of dystopias. In Brave New World, the deletion of individuality and the family is an allegory for what happens in totalitarian regimes, where personal relationships are secondary to one's relationship with the state. In a modern-day dystopia, China, that is reinforced through language itself. The Chinese Communist Party has changed the word for country in Mandarin. While it once consisted of the characters for family and state used in any order, the character for state is now fixed in first place. And if you'd like to fight back against government propaganda and overreach, consider Students for Liberty's Local Coordinator program. It offers the training and networking you need to become a powerful agent for change in the world. The destruction of not just individual identity and family, but of the entire past is another theme of Severance that calls to mind some of the most powerful dystopias in literature, including George Orwell's 1984. One of its central features is the memory hole, where protagonist Winston Smith destroys evidence of the past. All history was a palimpsest, scraped clean and reinscribed exactly as often as was necessary. In no case would it have been possible, once the deed was done, to prove that any falsification had taken place. In a crucial moment, Winston finds definitive proof that the party is wrong, and worse than wrong, is hypocritical. Winston incinerates it to save himself, throwing it straight down the memory hole. This erasure of individual and collective memory is consistently the desire of authoritarian regimes, in real life and in fiction. Huxley's Brave New World has a similar theme. It portrays the British Museum massacre, where 2,000 culture fans are gassed. This is accompanied by a campaign against the past, by the closing of museums, the blowing up of historical monuments, by the suppression of all books published before AF 150. What replaces the past once it's erased? The constantly repeated narratives the ruling party wants to instill. You all remember, I suppose, that beautiful and inspired saying, "History is bunk. History is bunk." In 1984, the party's slogans are repeated constantly.
War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength.
And in Severance, there's this super telling moment in episode 3, season 1.
Forgive me for the harm I have caused this world.
I am thankful to have been caught, my fall cut short by those with wizened hands.
So from this point of view, by erasing the past and replacing it with its own vision, Lumon Industries is not a company in any real sense. Companies need accurate records. They hire accountants and lawyers to make sure their records are accurate. And any entrepreneur can tell you, employees with experience, that is memory, are more valuable than rookies, and so get paid more. No, by erasing the past, Lumon acts like an authoritarian regime. Another theme of all three classic dystopian novels we've covered is the removal of emotion. As in Severance, emotion is never really possible in those worlds. In 1984, any show of emotion can be detected on the telescreens, and is likely to make citizens the subject of suspicion. Meanwhile, in Brave New World, Soma is a drug designed to increase the pleasures of life, not sever people in two. But the result is similar. The character Lenina Crown uses Soma to suppress unwanted emotions, as is expected within the world state. And like the Severance procedure, Soma is designed to leave no trace after its use, which is mandatory, so that everyone can continue in a floating, happy inertia. The goal of the regime in the book is obedient men stable in contentment. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what Winston becomes in 1984. He cries at the end of the novel, but he doesn't really know why. His tears, like his brain, are empty. He only feels vaguely and graspingly that he loves Big Brother. This, of course, is after his torturous visit to Room 101, which fully and totally breaks him. It's no coincidence, then, that the break room in Severance is literally a space to break the emotions and desires of the employees who go there. This is the series attempting to critique so-called late-stage capitalism, the irony of this being an Apple TV Plus show notwithstanding, where workers are these unhappy robots, the implication being that that's where we're all headed. But a state of emotionless vacuity is not what real-world companies want. For more perspective, we spoke to Roy and Laura Ann Spencer, real-life entrepreneurs who co-founded the basement waterproofing and foundation repair company Perma-Seal. They hire and work with contractors who must assess complicated infrastructure problems, often due to flooding or leakages. To be effective, they must not only think on their feet, but connect emotionally with homeowners. This requires memory and experience, but also personality and humanity.
We're in the customer care business. We're dealing with people, and we need the full person. We trust them. We trust their judgment. So we always say, well, here are our core values. We want you to make decisions. You're going to make mistakes. But when you have something you haven't run up against and you want to make a decision, is it in line with our core values? If the answer is yes, you're totally good.
So they don't want their employees to be like the robots we see in Severance, rigidly dedicated to protocol, unable to think for themselves.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Oh, no.
No, if they come in with a blank slate, all the relationships, all the knowledge base, all the sharing, none of that stuff is going to be able to happen. We believe in deep and long-lasting relationships.
The attempted critique of capitalism in Severance misses one more crucial point. What Lumon really calls to mind is another institution that, unlike capitalism, is involuntary. That institution is indentured servitude. Indentured servitude is a form of labor where an individual is under contract to work to repay an indenture or loan within a certain time frame. Indentured servitude was popular in the United States in the 1600s, as many European immigrants worked in exchange for the price of passage to America. Often, these were agreements between two parties about long-term work. The length of servitude might have been a specified number of years or until the servant reached a certain age. Some people indentured themselves in order to escape debt and poverty. Unlike outright slavery, indentured servitude typically provides the servant with something of value, and indeed in the Severance program, the agreement is made by two parties, Lumon Industries and the Audi, so that one will pay for the services and the other will receive his salary. However, when the Audi is severed, the agreement actually becomes composed of three parties, the Audi, Lumon, and the Innie. In this context, the injured party becomes the Innie, who is the one who works but does not benefit from the salary and has no decision-making power. In this sense, the Innie constitutes a servant of his Audi, not Lumon. Today, indentured servitude is illegal in the US and banned in nearly all countries. It's not clear if the severance procedure is technically legal within the show's universe, though we know some fictional senators are looking to ban it, while at least one senator supports fully legalized severance. Either way, Severance's critique of capitalism misses this key point. The choice to participate in the severance program is up to the outie, and each outie has his or her motivations for staying. We might understand and agree with those motivations. Who could blame Mark for trying to dull the pain of his wife's death? We might disagree with those motivations. But that choice is a choice, and it's not up to us to judge. Above all, the outie can always decide not to return to work, just like any employee of any company can. And in real-world companies, employers know that, and so they generally try to provide good working conditions so their employees always want to return to work.
We like to send our people home feeling good about what they did that day. And so when they go home, they can tell their family about people they helped, about the good things that happened at work and things like that. Hopefully they go home in a good frame of mind, so that elevates the family as opposed to coming back and it coming home in a bad frame of mind, or in the case of severance, and with a blank frame of mind.
When employees feel good about their work, they are less likely to look for other jobs, less likely to resign, and are more likely to be productive. In this way, companies, out of their own self-interests, out of their own desires to boost their bottom lines, want employees to be happy. Severance, meanwhile, plays up a mistaken notion of capitalism that began in the brutal factories of the Industrial Revolution and the ruthlessly efficient assembly lines of the early 1900s. It's true, when Henry Ford invented the assembly line, he was thinking its main benefit would be to boost his bottom line.
I think Henry Ford thought that at one time, and he came to learn better. You know, people aren't, even if they're on an assembly line, they're not robots. When he became aware and more empathetic to the workers' quality of life and things like that, and he raised their minimum wage, and they were happier, all of a sudden they became more productive.
This is the reality of capitalism. It's not perfect, but ultimately it values people's desires above all. Customers' desires of what to buy, and employees' desires of where, how, and whether to work. That's not what Lumon Industries does. In the world of severance, memory erasure is the common connective tissue, and human personality and ingenuity have ceased to exist. Lumon Industries is not a capitalist company. It is an authoritarian regime from a terrifying dystopia that exploits indentured servants.
I knew you could do it, Helly R. Even in your darkest moments, I could see you arriving here. In refining your macro data file, you have brought glory to this company and to me, Keir Egan. I love you. But now I must away, for there are others who need me around the world. Goodbye, Helly R, and thank you.
For more pop culture content like this, see our sister channel, The Invisible Lens.